Hi guys, welcome to COSC100 tutorial 8, exercise number 2. So in this exercise you're going to start working with a really big data set, and you should be familiar with this data set because it's the same equipment sales data that we looked at in earlier on in the lectures when you were working with spreadsheets, and in particular pivot tables. And today you're going to create a database table, import the data into that table, and then once we've got it in there you're going to construct some queries using the aggregate operations and also the group by operation, aggregate function, sorry, and group by operation to return some summary information about the data. So these questions should look very similar because you did this back in practical back in an earlier practical when we looked at pivot tables. So to start with, you'll need to create the equipment sales table, and you can do that by simply grabbing the SQL code shown here. So if we go and zoom in a little bit here just to make that a bit easier to see. You've got the SQL code for the table, and once you've done that, you'll then need to download the equipment data.sql file. So after you've created your table, if you open up the equipment data.sql file in pgadmin, you'll see that it's a rather large file, so just be patient. It might take a few seconds to open up, but once you've got it open there, you can see it contains some statements up the top, and this just sets some metadata about the data that's going to be inserted. And then it goes through to insert a whole bunch of rows, and you'll see there's quite a bit of white space in some of those, but all of the data for each record is stored in each one of those rows. So all you need to do is open that file up, move your cursor up to the top, and hit the execute button. Now, I've already done that, so I already have my equipment sales table up. So to start with, let's have a quick look at the data in that table. So if we open up, if you right click, I'll go back through that again, sorry. If we right click on the equipment sales table in the object browser, we can go and view the data. Now this table has about 88,000 records in there, so it has 88,000 rows, so we shouldn't click the view all rows option because it'll take too long to bring that data set up. So we're going to start by just viewing the top 100 rows. So when we open that up, we get our data viewer open here, and we can see that it's got the same columns that were present in the spreadsheet that we worked with back when we looked at pivot tables. So you can see we've got the retailer country field, the order method, retailer type. We've also got some data about the revenue and the quantity. So we've got our table, we've got our data loaded into it. Now we're going to start analysing our data, and we've got a set of questions here that we want to answer. And the first one of these is we want to know the quantity of lanterns sold in Australia across 2012 to 2014. Now I've already started constructing this query here to make things a little bit quicker in the video, so let's go through that one. So first of all, we're going to look through our data set and identify what data we actually want to play with. So we want to get the quantity of lanterns. So if we go back to our data viewer here, you can see that lanterns are actually part of the product type. They're a product type, they're not an individual product. So straight away, we want to group by these items. So we want to summarize all of these rows across our table. So we're going to be grouping by this, and we're going to be carrying out an aggregate operation on the quantity field. So the quantity field, we can see down the end, shows the quantity of lanterns sold for each country, and the country is in the retailer country field. So with this in mind, we can go and start constructing our query. So we start by grabbing the product. I'm going to start by returning all of the product types, because that's going to answer the question, because lanterns will be in amongst that. So I'm going to return the product type and the sum of the quantity. Now, we know that we're working with the equipment sales table, so that's the table name that goes in our from clause. Now, part of the question asks you for all the records from 2012 to 2014. So in order to grab records from this time period, we're going to use the sales _ year field. And here we've just put in a condition such that the sales year has to be greater than 2011 and less than 2015 to get that period of 2012 to 2014. We're only interested in the lanterns or the products sold in Australia, so I've put a filter in there that filters the retail country based on Australia. Now, because we want to get the summary, want our aggregate operation to be performed across each product type, we're going to use a group by operation here to group by the product type, and I'm also going to group it by the retailer country. Now in this situation, we're only going to get results for Australia returned, so we'll only get one country's data returned as part of our result set. So when you execute that, you should see a nice result set down here. So we've returned and grouped by every product, so you can see that we've got the total quantity of every product, and as part of this we've got the quantity of lanterns returned in Australia. So that answers that first little question. So you see we've actually grabbed extra information. We could put a filter in here, so if we go product type, equals lantern, link that in to our statement, so we complete our statement. Then we can go through and we'll get a single row of data returned if we put that extra filter in there. So that answers our first question. The next one goes on to ask us about binoculars sold in Australia, China, and also Belgium. So to start off with, I'm going to copy my previous SQL statement because it's going to be the starting point for my next one. Paste that in. I'll just remove those commenting marks out of there. So again, we can perform a similar query here. We can use the same query. We just need to modify the filters. So in this situation, we're looking for the binoculars. So I'm going to put the binoculars into our product type field. And the retailer country, all we need to do is add some additional countries to this one. So we want to get the results for China, and we also want the results for Belgium as well. Oops. Belgium as well. Now, because we've got multiple countries involved, we have to make sure that our retailer country field is in our group by statement. So we'll go through, it's already in there, and I'm going to put retailer country into my results return. So we're going to have a result set that'll consist of the retailer country, the product type, and the summary of the quantity. So if we go and run our query, oops, we haven't returned any of those. That's because we've used an incorrect operator here. Sorry guys, these ones will need to be ORed together. So because no single record will be from multiple countries, we should be using an OR operation. So go through, chuck an OR operation in here. Sorry about that, guys. That should return us 3 rows of data with our quantities of binoculars sold. So we can go through and return the total number of products sold. So again, to do this one, we can start with the same query, and we can just drop our product type filter. So if we drop our product type filter here, because we're returning all products, and we only want to get the total number of products sold in Australia, so we can remove all of these items here. Oop. So we don't need the records from China or Belgium. And we don't need to group by our product type or our retailer country because we're filtering by Australia, so we don't need our group by. All we need is the sum of the quantity field. And when we do that, we'll go through and we get a single item returned there. So you can see that there's about 2 million products sold across Australia. So again, by manipulating our query and using our summary operations, we've been able to return the data that we want. So query number 4 asks what retailer sold the most sleeping bags in 2014. So in this situation, we're going back through here. We need to modify some of our items here. So first of all, we can leave our conditions in for the years, only we need to modify them slightly. So if we go through here, we only want results from 2014, so we'll drop in sales year equals 2014. We want to grab the sum of quantity, and we want the product type. Product type to be sleeping bags. Product type to be sleeping bags. So make sure that when you're entering in the items that you get the case correct. So it should be in upper. So you might need to check the items there, but they should be uppercase to start with, and that should be a capital, I believe. But I'll double check that quickly. So if we go back through to our data, you can see that sleeping bags has a capital B there. And once we've got that up, grab the quantity. We want to grab the retailer type, I believe. What retailer type? So I'll go and check in my data. What is the retailer type? So it's retailer underscore type. So I'm going to return retailer underscore type. And I'm going to put a group by statement in here for retailer type. So that should give us our sleeping bag count by retailer. Oops. Retailer, sorry. And you can see here now we have the number of sleeping bags returned by the different retailer types. So we've only got 6 different retailer types. Now this is across all data, so it's not limited by country. So that gives us those ones. So we can go and modify that query to do the first one. So it asks which type of retailer sold the most in that one, actually. So we can go order by some quantity, and that will give us an order there to make things a little bit easier. So you can see here that outdoor shops were the most that sold that one. So you can apply similar operations to solve the last two. I'm going to leave those two for you to work through yourself. So you should be able to modify this query, the current query, to return the results for this one. And you should be able to just use a basic restriction query there, put some restrictions on there to find out what the rope sold, the units of rope sold in the sports stores. So essentially the idea of this exercise is to use the aggregate functions and the group by operation to slice and dice the data in different ways to return the items that you want. So that's all I've got, guys. Thank you.